I don't ever spend time doing that. All right, folks. Are we ready?
Uh-huh.
Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky few that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and am uniquely qualified to discuss this, as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles, and at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, digital marketing educator and expert, and owner of Digital Course Hive, Jen Williams. Jen is originally from Nampa, Idaho, but has traveled the entire country way more times than most of us due to the 5 generations deep family profession that she grew up in that we're going to get into in the next section, and I am bearing the lead. I better know Jen through the small world that is the Hard Rock Cafe and endlessly bothering her with marketing questions all the time via email over and over. That said, Jen, how did you get into marketing? What made you choose LA over Idaho? Tell us.
Marketing was a long time coming. I've been in education for almost 2 decades now.
And you're only 22. That's crazy.
I am. I look good.
You do.
Good.
You do.
But I've been in education, and marketing was just kind of something that it funneled into, and then went further down to creating our own platform, and now we help others launch their online business, their online courses.
When you say online courses, what does that mean? Does that mean like someone who's like a life coach, or what is
life coaches, yogis, professional athletes?
What? Are you allowed to name drop?
Real estate. I probably shouldn't.
Okay, fine. You'll be professional.
Right. And then, yeah, really, we've done courses for everything from rabbis to deacons to just everybody. There's really no holds barred when it comes to online courses. If there's something somebody wants to learn,
you're there for it.
There's always somebody there to teach it to them.
Oh, that's so cool. And then does your company also do the hosting of that, or do you build the sort of skeleton framework of it?
So we created a platform, Digital Course Hive, where it's kind of like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, where you can build your website, you can build your courses, you can build your email marketing systems, your appointments calendar, e-commerce store. So anybody can come and use our super intuitive female owned and created platform, which there's only a couple of us out there. It's insane to think that there's thousands of men in this field and only a couple ladies. But yeah, you can start any kind of business. And so great. We wanted to make it affordable. We don't believe it should only be for the elite, which sometimes that online course system can feel a little bit elitist. We want to make sure everybody was able to plug and play and make money online.
So is that what brought you to LA from Idaho?
No, I went to college in Vegas.
Oh.
And then I met my ex-husband at a bar. We weren't technically married, but together for a long time at the Nine Fine Irishmen in New York.
Oh, get out of here.
And he worked with you.
He sure did. He sure did.
And then here I am.
And here you are. Okay.
All good life decisions are made in bars in Vegas. I'm just saying.
Listen, it got us here today. Right. Cheers, everybody. We're all doing our best. Okay, so you met him whilst you were in college.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, and then was he like, hey, BTW, I'm moving to LA after, in a couple years or whatever?
Oh, no, he was here.
Oh, he was just there for the weekend?
Yeah, he's 12 years older than me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was here in it to win it.
Okay.
And I moved here to be with him.
Did you finish college?
I did.
Good for you, Jen.
Right there. It was
neck and neck.
Just perfect timing.
You're like, yes, it's going to be 1 month, and then I will see you in LA.
Right.
Okay.
It wasn't a long drive. So.
Okay. So that almost never happens. I had a boyfriend out of a Vegas experience, which is, hold for plane. God damn it. I love you, Hollywood, but this fucking hold for plane.
I think that was a helicopter.
Sure. It's probably finding a criminal who's inches from the front of this apartment. God bless. Yeah, no, I did the boyfriend out of a Vegas experience thing too. And yeah, one of us should have moved. We didn't. It didn't end well. But so you move here, and then were you already was your major in marketing and education?
No, not even close.
What was it?
It was in bio.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a nerd.
Yeah.
Oh, get off the podcast. We don't have nerds on here.
that was not my plan. But coming out here, every lab I applied to, it wasn't enough to survive. So I went into working in education.
Wait, so you get hired at these labs doing some sort of biology and you couldn't live?
No.
That is so fucking frustrating to hear. What was it that you were studying, or what were the labs doing that you were going to be working for?
Everything from, out here animal testing, which that lab's gone now, but processing blood work to anything that Santa Clarita has. There's so many great labs out in Santa Clarita, shockingly enough, but none of them really did offer more than $7 an hour back then.
You had a degree in biology and you couldn't make more than the actual federal minimum wage.
Nope.
How does anybody who works in a lab survive? Do they moonlight?
You just work your way up. Maybe that was just it's funny. That was the first job outside of, college that I was like, oh, this isn't going to work. I made more working college jobs in Vegas, as you probably would. We'll get to those later. Why would I go work that job when I could go
make
work
money
at Express in the mall and make double the pay?
That's so, it just seems there's something wrong with that. There's a lot wrong with that. We're not here for that, but whatever. Okay. So you're here for a little while and then you launched your company in what year?
So I worked in education long time. I got sick of moving because what I ended up doing is I would help develop platforms for online courses for different universities or schools. And I was traveling a lot. There was a point a couple years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. Wait, 2016. That's like 5 years ago, right?
God.
Yeah. Right?
So long ago.
Weird? When you're like, yeah, that's 5 years ago. Weird.
What?
Where my office was in Old Town, Oakland.
Okay.
And so I would 3 a.m. go to LAX, fly to Oakland, get on the BART, go to Old Town, go to meetings, and then come back at night, get home at 9:30. I have kids.
Oh my God.
I got sick of it. So I decided that I was going to stop traveling and I quit cold turkey, said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I found a job locally working for a real estate investment firm. And education is very proper, especially higher education, university education. A lot of red tape, a lot of HR departments, best staffed HR departments in the world. So going to work for this solo owner of this real estate investment firm who was an absolute dirtbag, machismo, jerk. I thought, oh my gosh, this is the real world. This is it, right? This is what everybody's dealing with.
Well, you ain't wrong.
Right? And I ended up becoming the CEO of that investment firm and worked my way to the top. I hate real estate. I don't know why I was there. It was down the street from my house. I was like, this makes sense. I like being home. But then it got to the point where I was working all the time. And that's where I met Cassia, my current business partner.
Okay.
She was straight out of college, super intelligent. I still to this day don't think she knows how intelligent she is. And I hired her on straight out of college. And he was like, no, you can't hire her. She's too young. I was like, she's really talented. Like, if you're gonna bet on horses, let's bet on Cassia. So he let her on. She did a great job, but then she ended up quitting. And then he called me a retard in a meeting in front of a bunch of people.
What?
Yeah, and I walked out.
You walked out that same day?
Yeah.
Good for you.
And I went home to my husband, who was like, hey-o.
Gotta have that income, though.
Right? So what's the plan? And I called Cassia, who had left a few months prior for same reasons. I mean, the guy, there were times where laptops would go flying across the office.
Oh, no.
He was just that guy. And I called her and I said, I've got this plan. I'm going to start bringing in people for marketing services and doing what we do. And we had built an online course for him. That's how we kind of dove into this together. And she was like, yeah, call me when you need me. And so I called her the following couple weeks. Hey, I have like 5 hours of work for you. Are you down? And I think it immediately jumped to 40 hours a week, and now we're at 120 hours a week.
Girl. Oh my God.
So no, we're easing off now. We're at the point where we're lucky enough where things are taking time, but that's just how the company was. It wasn't a master plan. Like, it wasn't It just
Just
fate
felt
kind
it.
of pointed us in the right direction.
Sounds like
We
it.
just kept going and kept grinding and coming up with new ideas and trying new systems and building our own systems. And
I have
That's
to.
it.
I don't want to pull the rug out from under such a great story of you building your business, because the business is amazing. What was the context of him using the hard R in a meeting about you? Like, not that there's never a justified context, but I want to understand what happened.
it was probably something marketing. The thing about him, here's a little more context. Currently, he's been the legal ball is a rolling with the SEC and the FBI, because after I left, he stole $18 million from his investors. So
I'm so sorry. He stole
$18 million
dollars
from his investors. And
Okay.
go ahead. You can come after me if you want to. I don't know if you hear this, but
I mean,
I'm not
sounds like
saying
the
your
FBI
name.
already figured it
go
out.
ahead, sue me for everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just a horrible, violent man. He was like an ex-MMA fighter. And in the meeting, it was all men, and it was a sales meeting, I believe. And he just Zoom glitched, or it was the little things. It was something that was so insignificant, I couldn't tell you what happened in the meeting.
Sure. And then he just hard R.
Yep.
That's so impressive. What's more impressive is that you fucking walked out that same day.
Yeah, I was like, I'm out.
That's
This is
so brave.
crazy.
Ugh, that makes me so mad. Okay, well, but now you have your business as a result. So,
Right?
like, thanks, thief, for that opportunity.
You
Thief,
horrible human.
You horrible, horrible
And I was like,
person.
is this what it's like? And Cassie, her first job out of college, I was like, I'm sorry that I put you. I shouldn't have hired you.
Yeah.
Because I knew he was borderline crazy.
You didn't know this, though.
I didn't know how far it was going to go, because it got worse over the years, because he was probably stealing behind everybody's back. I never
Sure.
physically saw the books, because that just was something the accountant did. But yeah, he probably felt like he was in trouble the whole time.
Well, yeah, you're going to
Pressure mounting.
Yeah, 100%. Because you can't. That's not a sustainable level of energy when you're like, I am aware that I am this illegal
Stealing
activity.
people.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
money. Like, they're hard-earned.
Ugh, that's gross. Well, I'm glad that the FBI is
Right?
involved. Good. Karma's a bitch. Okay. So LA is where your business is located now, but does that mean you can also, because it's a digital course, can you service all over the world?
Yeah, we're 100% online. We own Digital Course Site, but we have a couple of other companies 100% digital as well. And so we can go anywhere if we want to go.
Now,
Anywhere.
if I don't want to run a course, but I, as an actor, need a website, can you help me with that too?
Yeah.
Oh, how does that work?
Yeah, it's just like Squarespace.
Oh,
So if
that's
you're
awesome.
going to Wix and building a site, ours is much more intuitive, much more cost effective. It allows you to sell physical and digital products. Like, let's say you want to expand. I'm always talking about, exponential growth when it comes to companies. Like, digital products, physical, have something for everybody, right?
Sure.
And so it really gives you that opportunity to not only, like, you can consult with people. Maybe somebody wants to consult with you on how to break into the acting field or start a podcast. It's really popular right now.
Sure.
So you can have those paid consultations, and then you can email them with the email system. You can sell physical products, mics,
Ooh.
setups, gear, t-shirts with
Okay.
my face on them, whatever
Yeah.
you want to sell. And do your
Jen.
website and your landing pages where you funnel your marketing to. So it's a really great platform. We launched it 6 months ago, and we have been shocked every day since that it's going so well.
I love that. Well, that's a happy accident. Good.
Right.
Well, thanks to that jackass for inspiring. It's whatever. I'm giving him too much credit.
Right.
Your brains inspired that. That's great. Okay, so well, folks, we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to move on to the entrees after a quick break, when we'll get into the thing that I buried the lead about. Okay.
It was so perfect that I was coming here today, because one of our craziest clients tried to be like, you need to refund me money from 2 years ago.
No, they can't.
They can't do that, but they try. Always try.
Oh,
It's
we're going to
insane.
get into that. Okay, wait. I'm going to make a note. 2-year-old refund. I tried to return fucking jeans that I bought 10 days ago, and they were like, the 10-day window has closed.
Right?
And when did that start? I thought you could return
or they
shit.
do online, like, say we're fraud. I record all of our Zoom meetings, and we'll have clients that'll be like, I love my website. It's beautiful. I'm so excited. And then a week later, they'll claim what they paid us as fraud on their banking account.
Wait, fuck off.
And the funds get revoked, and then you have to go through this, like, that's why I record everything.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
So then you have to spend time proving that they actually like spent money with you?
They liked it, and they were all about it, and everything was fine, but they just want to get that, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 back.
Jen, that's disgusting.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Wait, so what do you win? Have you lost any of those cases?
I've lost them, yeah.
How do you lose that?
Banks always side with the
But
people.
you have proof.
Uh-huh. And sometimes if you submit the proof, the bank's like, oh yeah, fuck that person. Like, here's your money. But sometimes they'll be like, no, it's not enough.
That would make me want to stop doing my own business.
Yeah.
Like
It's a lot.
I've heard stories like that before, but I was like, no way that people would do that. To people.
Are horrible
Just,
sometimes.
yes. How does that make you not want to shut your whole business down?
Oh, well.
Because there's too many good clients.
Yeah, there's too many good clients.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to get into it. Here we go. Okay. Well, now we're back. And it's time for the entrees. Okay. So this is where we get into the awesomeness. Okay. What was your first job ever, Jen?
I was a carny.
What?
Shock.
Silence. Is that the 5-generational familial job that I did not specify earlier? Okay.
I am 5th generation, both sides of my family, to own traveling carnivals.
What does that mean?
That we own county fairs.
So does that mean you own the Ferris wheel and the funnel cake stand and the fucking carousel?
For the most part, we own the rides and the route. So the business kind of rolls. The person that owns the rides usually is the one that negotiates the route, which is where the carnivals go, whether it's a strip mall or a fair or wherever they're going, and driving along the route that eventually brings them back home. So it's like a 10-month circle you make, where we would start in Arizona, which is a lot of carnivals are winter quartered in Arizona. And we would start north, obviously going with the heat. And so we'd start in the south, go north, and then we'd stop in small towns in Utah, small towns in Arizona, and travel north until we got to the big fairs, like the Clark County Fair in Nevada, Western Montana Fair, Idaho Fair, Northern Idaho State Fair. And those big places where you made most of your money were those big county fairs. But in between that time, in order to pay for your gas to get further and further north to those big fairs, you worked 10 months out of the year. So you would travel. So I would go to school, and then in the summer, I would go out on the carnivals and work with my family. And we owned the rides. And usually the games were owned by an independent contractor, and the food as well. So it was 3 owners of one carnival, my father and friends of his. And I would work the games. I was a barker.
What does that mean?
It means you call people into the games, like, come on in.
Give me an example of something you would say. I have to know, besides come on in.
That's really it. Come on in. Come one, come all. Like, oh my gosh, it'll come to me all through this interview.
Okay, great.
Start saying them.
Just start yelling them out. Okay, so I want to go back. So because it was 10 months out of the year, but you only joined them for the summer, were you in the house by yourself? If this was a family
No, my
business?
mother would stay with me.
Okay, so your dad would go out on the road.
My dad and my mother, it always sounds so weird when I say it out loud, but we had a ranch in Idaho.
Amazing.
And my mother was, for lack of a better term, a professional cowgirl. She rode cutting horses, and she was 6th in the world in 94 riding professional cutting horses.
Please elaborate on what cutting horses are, because people that don't know what that is, that's fucking crazy.
Right? So it's competition. It's not rodeo. So it's not, it's not in the rodeo. It's a separate competition where you go and you take your horse and there's a herd of cattle. And you cut one cow away from the herd. And
just
then
one.
Your horse, just one. And then your horse jumps back and forth in front of the herd of the cattle, keeping that one cow away from the herd.
So it's like bonkers. Because you have to be up on your feet the whole time because you're jumping with the horse.
Yeah, you have to really know how to sit in a saddle. And
it's bonkers.
You have to let the horse do all the work. So the horses are very trained, but you have to stay on. Like, you can't fall off.
They're not bucking. It's not, like you said, it's not the rodeo.
But they're still jumping.
But it's similar.
Yeah.
Oh, and they do that in the ring, right? Because you can see you as a spectator up in the stands. You're also able to watch those, like, their competitions, because it's like in order for her to be 6th in the world, that means she was competing with the world.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
So but she wasn't on the road?
Not very often. No, they would
Okay.
come to compete there. Sometimes it would be in Nevada, sometimes California here or Texas. Those were kind of the big areas where she was in. I had neighbors that I grew up with, so I have a very small family. I'm an only child. My parents are only children.
I didn't know you were an only child.
Yeah, their parents are only children. I don't have cousins. Like we're just the three of us.
Oh, wow.
I was the first one to have multiple children.
You're so generous too. No offense, only children, but like you don't have that vibe at all.
Really?
Not at all.
I feel like I totally do.
No, you're so generous. That's not, no offense, only children. But I feel like I have to have all these fucking asterisks. That's so crazy. So it was just, it was easy for them then to have traveling jobs.
Yeah. So the neighbors, the Bilbao family, there's a large Basque population up in Boise, Idaho. Shout out to them. They're amazing. But Liz and Fermine Bilbao were our neighbors, and they were like surrogate parents to me and would take me whenever my parents were traveling. And their children, Isabel and Martin, were like a brother and sister to me. So whenever
So
they
you're
took off.
kind of an only child, but not really.
And then they had a huge family. So it was like, oh, I'm going to be part of this. They're so cool.
And you also learned how to share and shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay. So when you say you would work the games, that would only be during the summer months during school years.
Yeah.
So then what about in college? Did you guys still have the carnival at that time?
We did. We ended up selling it when I was about 25.
25. Okay.
Yeah. Gas was getting too high. Profit margins were getting lower. And I don't think at the time my father had 100% faith in me as a woman being able to run a carnival.
You don't think he did, or he did have that?
I don't think he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because why do you think that was?
Well, he told me. But you might hear this.
We love you, Dad.
That's okay. I love him. But at that
honest.
time, it's just not a woman's world. It's gritty, keeping the carnival clean is hard. There's been numerous times where I've seen my father ram some guy's head into the side of a truck because he's hitting on underage girls or doing something that my father would not deem appropriate on the carnival. So it is a hard gig.
Okay, when you say, I just want to get clear, when you say cleaning the carnival, you don't mean like fucking
Scrubbing it.
fabuloso on the floor.
No.
You mean like making sure
that we had church call every morning. So it was like, if we opened at noon, we'd have an 11 a.m. church call where Reed would go out and stand in front of everybody on the carnival and
Who's
say,
Reed,
hey,
your dad?
Reed's my dad.
Okay, got it.
That's why it's Jennifer Reed Williams.
Figure that.
And he would tell them what's up. If somebody started a fight the night before, if they were drunk at the local bar, if they were mouthing off to women, if they were hitting on women, if they were doing anything inappropriate, drugs, we drug tested all the time. If they made us look bad in the town because we were dirty carnies, they didn't want us in town sometimes. So we had to walk a really, really good line. Then he would either throw them out on the spot. If they refused to leave, he'd forcibly remove them with the other guys on the crew. Yeah, they kept it clean, and the guys that worked on that carnival, like to this day, they're just the greatest men and women ever. But sometimes we'd pick up horrible people. We'd have to knock them around a little bit.
Okay. So I have 6,000 questions. I'm trying to distill it. Okay. So was that common amongst like the carny community that like keeping a carnival clean was a big deal?
It's a huge deal, especially with insurance companies.
Okay. Why?
Because we could lose everything.
Okay. Meaning that if there were some underage interaction, or if a ride fell apart, or
and the person was drinking or on drugs, it comes back on us as a company.
Oh.
And our insurance would be like, okay, well, we're going to drug test them. Let's say if the zipper fell over,
Sure.
and killed a bunch of kids. Like,
oh, I see. I didn't realize it was that serious. I would always be like,
It's
we'd go to
super
carnivals in my
serious.
town and be like, I'm probably going to die on this ride. Who cares? Like, because our brains weren't formed. But I did not know
we have
that.
twice a day inspections from inspectors locally in the communities.
Wow.
So same people that would come in and inspect restaurants. There's people that inspect large machinery, and they come in and inspect twice a day.
Wow. That actually, that makes me feel more confident in going to the fair. So when you say that you had the route like south to north or north to south, sort of depending on the weather, did you already have contracts with all the places you would stop?
Yeah.
And okay, so were those established years in advance?
Yeah, we had years and years of the same contract coming down from my great grandfather, as far back as, because we had freak shows as well originally. We'll get into that, I'm sure.
I'm making a note.
Flip the page on the note.
Yep. Running out of space. Okay.
So my grandfather's negotiated contracts that were 20, 30-year contracts, and then we would ride those out. And then my father would spend the off season going to like IAPA or Outdoor Amusement Business Association is another one. They do, them more so for like Disneyland rides, like OABA, like has conferences. But what you don't know is like men like my father go and fair boards go and they negotiate and be like, hey, if they're in Vegas, hey, let me take you to, the titty bar to negotiate a contract for the fair. Like,
because your dad would do that, or
Yeah.
they would do that for him.
Yeah.
He would do that.
he would do that to them because he wanted that fair. So, take him to see Wayne Newton. I saw Wayne Newton so many times.
So of course you met Matt in Vegas. Like you were well versed.
Or the Excalibur show.
Oh God, that
or
show's so bad.
Siegfried and Roy.
Oh bless. Where the tigers are eating their faces.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Okay, so it's not common to think of 30-year contracts now. Like that's sort of blowing my mind because I think like we barely do. I can only commit to like 6 months of something. So your grandfather had sussed out like 30-year contracts for these routes. Now at any point, if something were to have happened, could those people on the routes be like, fuck your 30-year contract, we're breaking this?
Absolutely. But there's not a
Really?
lot of carnivals coming in
Okay.
to fight with my father for his route. Everybody was pretty respectful in being their routes because we would take certain states going up. So if we were going from Arizona up to Idaho, Montana, there's shows that just run California, like Ray Kammick shows out here at these big fairs. Those big carnivals, like both of our carnivals would come together and not be the size of Ray Kammick shows that you see at San Diego Fair, things like that. So there's carnivals where that amount of product that he has to move from San Diego to LA, he runs month-long contracts. Los Angeles County Fair is a month long. So
Sure.
it's just different carnivals. So there's Ray Kammick runs California, Washington, Oregon, different shows. West Coast has East Coast has completely different shows.
Okay.
We don't even know half of them out there, but everybody kind of runs their own up and down different routes. And sometimes you get some rogue jerk that tried to play a spot 2 weeks before you and take the money from the town. Some of these towns, that's all the fun that they get, right? And then we're not talking rich towns. If you have 7 kids in a small town in Utah, if a show hit before us, then they would take all the money, right? So people would try to do that on occasion. Reed would take care of it. We don't talk about how he would take care of it because we don't know how he would take care of it.
Wink.
My friends in school back in Nampa, they used to always say, your dad's in the mob because he wears this gold chain he has his whole life. They're like, he's in the mob. Like 100% he's in the mob.
And you're like, please don't ask
He's
questions.
just that guy. We don't ask him certain things.
You just let some stuff go. That's how that works.
Just that person never showed up the next year, 2 weeks before us. So
Hold on. This is so exciting that you're sharing so honestly. Okay. So the courses are run in a very particular way.
you mean the carnivals?
Carnivals.
Not
Sorry,
courses.
Not courses. See, I'm
Not
mixing,
even related.
Not
I have like the
related
weirdest
at all.
background that was
Yep.
like no education for carnies. We always joke when we go to the fair, we call it the Carney College Fund because every person that I grew up with on the fair or on the carnival, they're lawyers, doctors.
Shut up.
Counselors. All of us have like super professional
Degrees.
Our parents put away money and made sure we all went to college. And
So was it profitable?
oh yeah.
Okay, so why? How? Because did you guys own everything outright, or were you renting the
Oh no, we own the rides. Just like you'd own a car.
Okay. So every ticket sold or every dollar spent or whatever was obviously minus maintenance and labor was basically profit.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did it take for your family to own those? Right. Because I would assume since this is 5 generations deep, were these the same rides from 5 generations ago?
No, but some of them are 20 years old.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or you take a loan out on them just like you would a house. Like, the zipper may cost $140,000. They weren't super expensive. Like now I could imagine they'd be $500,000, $1 million.
Jesus Christ.
But, like a kiddie ride, like a Jeep jump is what they would call the ones that just go around with the little Jeeps and the kids in it. Maybe $25,000. Okay. So a lot of them we did have from the 60s, from the 70s that stuck around. We repainted, maintained them, upgraded them as needed.
You personally would repaint?
Well, we had a guy. I've never lengthily talked about like the history.
Well, we're getting into it, girl, because I'm so interested. We had a guy.
His name was the Wizard. He was the go-to carnival guy. He painted all the rides. I'm gonna send you pictures of the stuff the Wizard would paint. But he, if we had like the fun house that was all decked out rock and roll, we owned the fun house from Greece. Like our family literally had a plaque in there, the fun house from Greece.
Straight up Greece, the country.
No,
Greece.
Oh my God,
the fun house from the movie?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was ours. Yeah.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah. So that he would paint it if we wanted it to be rock and roll one year, or obviously we couldn't do Disney because copyright infringement and things like that. But if he wanted, I think it had Aerosmith on it, and then you just blare the music, so it was like the rock and roll one year or 5-6 years. But he was a airbrush painter, and they called him the Wizard. And he was the go-to guy for carnivals.
Was he actually good, or was it like a?
Oh no, he was amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
But in that retro, dirty brown.
Yeah.
Painting Aerosmith with airbrush, kind of like Sailor Jerry is to tattoos, the Wizard was to carnivals.
That's so fucking cool. And you guys had an in with the Wizard?
Yeah. So that's because when we'd come back down every year, all those 3 months that we spent in winter quarters is what it's called, down in Arizona, he would come out, repaint, touch up, and then all of our guys that worked full time for us, they would be touching up paint, checking engines, running maintenance. So for 3 months, we would get ready to go out again, checking trucks, tires.
And it took 3 months to do that.
Yeah. It's a full-time gig.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so because of child labor laws and stuff, I'm using air quotes, because it was a family business, were you working before you were 16?
Oh, yeah. I was working at 6.
So how is that allowed?
No one cares. We're carnies. Who's going to say anything?
Ma'am, how old are you?
The inspector. I'm the owner's kid. Get off my lot. Get out of here.
I'm just eating funnel cakes. Leave me alone. Okay, so you were 6 years old for your first job. Okay. So I want to go back. So maintenance of this route, maintenance of all of the, rides and everything. How many rides did you own total as a family?
I think there were 38 total, but divided amongst 2 shows. So we had 2 different carnivals that would go on 2 different routes, and then they would come together at the bigger fairs. So we'd have a bigger carnival. So there were 2 shows. It was both sides of my family. My mother owned a carnival, and my father owned a carnival. My father's side and my side that I inherited when I was 13 was Inland Empire shows, and my mother's was Royal West Amusements.
Wait, did they meet at a carnival, your parents?
They grew up together.
Shut up.
Yeah. My grandfathers were in the same freak show together.
Okay. Well, now I'm jumping ahead, but I got to know.
How far back are we going?
We're going.
Do we need more wine?
Yeah. Yes. Hold on.
I've had other customer service jobs. I don't care.
What job isn't customer service?
This is my point. This is my whole thing. I say this about
taking my kids to school. Customer
service. Kids are customers, and they're kind of dicks.
My husband, daily basis, customer service.
Making him dinner. Men are ridiculous. Okay. Okay. We're going back. Your grandparents were in the same freak show together?
Yeah. So my mother's father, Ray Barber, he was Shamu, the boy with the iron tongue. It's going to get real weird real fast here.
I'm just going to shut up.
And when he was younger, he fell on a nail, and it went through the bottom of his chin and up through his tongue. And his father, seizing opportunity, because that's what we are.
Carnies at heart.
He put a nut in it. So he left the hole open, and my grandfather would take out the nut before a show, and he would hook a car that was obviously pulled by magnets, not his tongue. And he would pull, and he would always tell us the joke. He'd go up to the prettiest girl in the audience and put the hook through his tongue and pull the car. And then he also wrestled alligators. And the most common story Ray would tell us was about 2 weeks before they were done with their circuit, their route, the alligator died. And instead of getting a new alligator, he would just wipe the slime off every morning.
Oh my God.
And pretend to wrestle the alligator for the show.
Oh my God.
That's so fucking gross. Okay, great.
Sorry, it's just
Nope, keep going.
And my mother was a barker. She would beat the drum for the fat lady.
Aw.
And various other in front of the tent shows that she could. Her uncle, she calls uncle, I don't know if it's a direct relative, he bred Barnum's elephants a long time ago, and bred the only white albino elephant in captivity, and they had elephants and horses on the show.
Now, when you say Barnum's elephants, you mean Barnum and Bailey Circus, right? That
yeah.
went on to massive fame.
Yeah. And then we also had them on our side as well. She always tells the story of a pony that fell in love with the elephant. And every time the pony would go out to perform, the elephant would cry until it came back. And so they were lifelong buddies, the pony and the elephant. And my other grandfather, he was half man, half woman.
Is it meaning truly a hermaphrodite? Like truly that was real? Or he just dressed up?
He just dressed as half man, half woman.
Oh, okay.
So because he's very tall and skinny. So
Okay.
he would do half
Would he
man, half
literally,
woman.
because I think
It
people
was
don't know
half
the
and half,
visual.
yeah.
Okay, so the visual is like literally a line down the center of one's body. And then like one half wears a high heel and the other half wears a boot.
Yep.
And like, so it's not what people think. It's just a visual. It's a
Yeah,
play. And like
exactly.
half mustache, half lipstick
Yep.
kind of thing. Okay, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
So that was the quote unquote freak show.
Yep.
But that's how you're...
There were other things in the freak show too. Various people. We have whole magazines and photos of all of them. Everything
do?
everything from the pickle people.
Wait, what's the pickle people?
Where you'd carry around the jars of like two-headed cattle or
Oh, it's so specific.
like cyclops cows or
Fuck's a cyclops cow? Just one eye?
just one eye.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Like there's, they call them pickle people.
I did not know that. I did not know that was a thing.
Just any oddity.
They just
that's
had
out
it.
there. Yeah.
And you know, in Venice, how there used to be that like the freak
Those
show.
are hardcore freak shows. Like,
Okay,
those
what
are
is
pretty
that?
dark.
Yeah, they are, right?
Yeah, they're
It's
just
like,
modern. Lots of tattoos, lots of more modern, scarier stuff.
yeah, there's like
You
a
didn't have
satanic
to-
element.
I mean, in
to
the 50s, you didn't really have to be that scary. Like the carnival in town was scary enough.
Sure.
And then that's kind of how they started. They would have rides. Back then they were called Flying Jennies, which is how I got my name.
Shut
Carnival.
up.
Yeah, the carnival would carousels, merry-go-rounds. They didn't have platforms originally, so the horses just hung there, and essentially
off.
they
Swung?
would swing. Yeah, so they'd swing out.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh, you
so-
really went for it on the carousel in the 50s.
Right.
You could have died.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of how they started with those original rides, and then moved on from there.
Okay. One question of 1,000. I'm trying to narrow it down. When you say that the kid that had the hole in his tongue was pulling the car with magnets, how? How did where were the magnets?
Behind him. Large magnets behind him.
That's such a good magic trick.
Right.
Interesting.
It was more so the show they would put on that people would just be like, ew. Like kind of how you were, where it's like the car is a secondary to the fact that this kid
tongue.
just put something through. Now it's a common, I mean, we live in Hollywood, right?
Sure.
So like every day somebody put something through their
Yeah.
tongue.
The dude I went on a
But
date
back
with.
then it was like, oh my goodness. Or the person with all the tattoos. If a woman
Sure.
had tattoos back then, she was an oddity.
That's right.
We would take in anybody that had any physical abnormalities and give them jobs.
Oh, wow. Well, that's
So
actually kind
the
of...
carnivals were a lot of places where people would come to work that had
no other option.
no other option back then. So that's why these places became freak shows, and it wasn't ever like we didn't force people to work or anything. Like these
Sure.
are sometimes were their only option.
Which is such an interesting... I mean, like, I think now because of the culture, the way it is, the word freak carries such a weight, and it would seem as if it were being judgmental. But it's like actually providing an opportunity to work is like, you don't want people to laugh at them, but then also if they're not, I don't know, I would feel conflicted about that because it's like, well, you are providing work.
Yeah.
Which means they get to eat that day.
Yep.
And their families potentially get to eat that day. And like, ugh, that's tough.
And we have Randy, like, there's a gentleman named Randy who I grew up with. He was my grandmother's water boy.
The
the
fuck's
day.
a water boy?
Well, when you lived in the RVs a long time ago, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you didn't have running water, plumbing. So there were water buckets. And Randy was, or Richard, I'm sorry, not Randy. Randy, someone else. Richard, he was my grandmother's water boy. He would help her, and his, family left him with us because he was slower. Or I don't know the technical term for that. You might want to edit it out.
No,
but
we'll come up with a word. That he was just learning disabled.
he was learning disabled, yeah. But the sweetest man. And to this day, my father takes care of Randy.
I will die.
Richard. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? Randy's the other guy. There's another story about Randy, but no, Richard.
Well,
Richard's
tell us
a sweet, sweet old man.
Tell us the Randy story.
Well, Randy ran the company's managed the shows for my father, so we had a manager on each show, and Randy and Joanne were like another set of surrogate parents, and on the other show we had Debbie and Jim Parks, and they had kids, and we were all like the same age. And
see, this is why you don't have the only child vibe, because you really truly weren't.
There were a lot of kids. Yeah,
you were learning how to share and be around a lot of that. Okay, so at what point, because I could spend 6 hours talking about the carnival, at what point did you ever get to a place where you were like, I'm fucking too cool for this, I'm sick of this, I don't, because it's a lot of fucking work, and like when you're just a kid, you're just trying to be a kid. So was there a point when you were like, I'm super over this?
No. When I would go out on the road, I'd get my take of what I'd bring in for the
you got to make money.
Yeah, I made a lot of money.
Shit.
Like, I bought my own cars when I was in high school, like financed my own clothes. Like,
goddamn,
I was always the girl that was partying during the school year, where you could come to my house because my parents were gone when I was in high school. Or I, had all the great things because I was able to work and get that real money and have that opportunity to have cash in hand all the time. So I never didn't want to not be there.
Sure.
It was amazing. I'd still do it if I owned we'd be there every summer.
So why did your family sell? Like, why not continue to do it?
It was getting harder, gas prices, especially now. I can't imagine. And after COVID, when they were all shut down, it did end up working out for the best. But having that faith that I wanted to stay home and start a family, I don't think my family wanted that for me, because it was hard, Not to say that I'm absolutely normal, but
who is though? Who is?
But at 25, it was a heavy, I did sign the paperwork. So there was something at me at 25 that was like, okay, it's time.
You were one of the people that had to sign to say that you were selling it. Because I
inherited it when I was 13. It was a generation skipping trust.
Interesting. So what does that mean?
It's a tax evasion thing.
Okay. Well, we won't poke at that. Yeah. Okay. Not going to pull at that thread.
Remember, we don't talk about the things.
That's right. That's right. This is the things we don't talk about in the mafia.
No, so it was a generation skipping trust, and I did have to sign the paperwork, and I did. And sometimes I think, I screwed up, and sometimes I love being home with my kids. So
sure. Did you feel any kind of way? Because I know that like a lot of animal rights activists, especially with Barnum and Bailey, like having animals in captivity, and it sounds like you guys personally didn't have animals in captivity, other than that, the dead alligator. Oh, so the albino elephant was
and elephants.
Horses, I don't feel a way about.
As like the 60s, that faded out pretty fast. So we were just carnivals. We were just hard machinery at that point. But I get why they did it.
Okay.
Why Barnum and Bailey let them go. But it was still sad to see it happen.
Yeah.
Because of where it came from. Not to say that was right and to start out with. But, it's like that thing, like, yes, I'm still sad about it because it is my life, you know? That chaos is my life. And that it was sad to see them put them away, but it was the right decision. So despite what I feel about it, it's still the right decision.
So when you sold, because you said that sort of faded out in the 60s, did you still have elephants when you, at 25, sold?
No.
You did not? Okay.
We didn't have the freak shows past the 60s, I would say. I'd have to double check with my mom. Yeah.
You were straight up
We're talking
just
like
rides.
40s, 30s, 20s.
Okay.
Like,
straight up
the Great Depression.
Yeah. Okay. When people were just desperate.
When machinery didn't exist.
Okay. So then when you ended up selling the carnival, do you remember all the rides and stuff that you sold? Was it like a Ferris wheel and all of that stuff?
We had 2 Ferris wheels.
Oh shit.
We had 12 kiddie rides, which are like the Jeep jumps and the little dinosaur, like the spinning strawberry, things like that. Kids rides. We had a bumper car. We had a zipper. We had a
What-
hurricane.
You've said zipper a couple times. What is a zipper?
The zipper's the one that has it's an oval.
Oh, I fucking hate that ride.
And it's got
Ugh.
the cards.
No, that's a nightmare. No, I hate that fucking ride.
It like goes up and
Yeah,
then it goes
yeah, I
around
gotcha.
while it goes.
Yeah.
We had the hurricane, which was the two
love the
arms
hurricane.
that go.
Yeah.
We had the super sizzler, the one that like spins with the three
Spins with a three. I
cups.
can't.
You've seen it in what's the baseball movie? You're Killing Me, Smalls.
Oh, fucking
Where they
Goonies.
vomit? No,
No,
not Goonies.
I'm not good at this game. You're killing me, Smalls. Isn't that Goonies?
no, it's the baseball one with the
Sandlot.
Sandlot, where they vomit on that ride. That's a sizzler.
Seen the Sandlot. So y'all had
We had
y'all
like
had
the
an
fun
inventory.
houses, House of Mirrors. We had this.
okay.
I think it was called Spider.
Now, did you think at all? Because when I was in Stockholm, you guys, I'm very fancy. I travel a lot. When I was in Stockholm, they had a standing, what we would consider kind of a
Theme park.
fair. Yeah, but they called it a theme park, but it was essentially, it was like a fair.
Yeah.
But it was a stationary option, but it had those kinds of carnival rides. Did you consider maybe creating some sort of stationary thing with all of the inventory you had?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay.
We had two theme parks that we owned throughout my mother's life and my father's life.
Shit.
We had we owned the Boise Depot, which was in Boise, Idaho. There used to be a theme park in the park by the zoo. What was it called? Julia Davis Park is what it was called. And so we owned that, and we had the tilt-a-whirl and the carousel there, and then eventually that went under. We absorbed those rides into the traveling carnival, and we also owned Playland Pier in the 70s
Shit.
in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And then it burnt down.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Arson.
Yeah.
Shut up.
The city.
Wait, they did it?
Coeur d'Alene, don't quote me on that. But you did it.
Oh my God. Wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Was there an investigation?
It was the 70s and we are carnies.
No,
There's
so
never an investigation.
Never an investigation. They're like, y'all have tax evade. We're going to do whatever the fuck we
Right.
want. Why do you think they burned it down?
They wanted the pier.
Fuck off, Jen. This is real life?
Yeah, now get this. My grandfather's carousel is sitting in a little museum they have there of the Playland Pier Museum.
That they fucking are profiting
That
off of? That
we
they
sent stuff to.
Why did you? Now, why? That's an act of good faith.
Because
Why would you?
where am I going to keep it? Like, for real.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
enough.
his carousel is sitting there.
Have you ever gone back to see it?
No, why would I do that?
Painful, huh?
Yeah.
That's tough. Okay.
But yeah, they burned it down, and then they called us and wanted to erect a museum to the Playland Pier of the 70s.
I would feel a real kind of way about that.
It is kind of a way.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't bring it up to my mom.
Okay, got it. Okay. Sorry if you're listening. Wait, so I want to understand. So you own all of those sort of stationary locations whilst also going on tour with the various carnivals. So when you sold and had to sign the paperwork at 25, did you sell all of that as well?
They were sold along the way.
Oh, okay,
Absorbed
okay.
along the Boise didn't want us to have the Julia Davis Fun Park there anymore.
Why?
We're carnies.
What is it? Why do people do small hands? What's the fucking thing?
No, even when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to tell people what my parents did.
Why?
There's been times where I've been drug out of hotels when they found out why we were in town. If we were the carnival.
Jen.
Yeah,
Wait,
I've been beat up by men
Jen.
on the carnival. Yeah, it's not it's rough. Like there's the beautiful, amazing side of it, and then there's a reason that I don't mind getting hit in the face. There's two sides to the story.
Wait, why would anyone put hands on you in relation to a fucking carnival?
Pedophiles hitting on underage kids
Ooh,
that came
ooh.
to the lot to think we were easy prey.
Ooh, girl.
Number of things.
Oh, that got
Number
real.
of things.
That got real. I'm about to vomit in my mouth. Okay. All right. We're
Like
getting
there's
real.
so many, or if you talk back to them, I mean, we're carnies. We're either there to suck their dick or sell drugs. And that's what they thought of us in the 80s and the 90s. And
But even though there was this sort of code of ethics that your dad was enforcing.
that he had, but these are the people from the local towns.
Oh, and they don't have a code of ethics.
They don't have a code of ethics.
So y'all roll through town and they're like, we're about to show you what for.
Yeah. All the time. All the time.
And they would roll up on you as like, what, a teenager?
Yeah.
And then put hands on you. Would you fight back?
Oh, yeah. And then anybody on the lot would beat him to a pulp. Like
They would.
It wasn't even a joke. Like,
Because
but
the carnival, the other carnies had your back.
Oh, yeah. I was Reed's daughter. Like, Reed would murder them if anything happened to me. Like,
Damn.
They would be buried in a swamp in Montana. Like, it wouldn't be pretty. But
Sure.
yeah, Like there are people out there, they don't want you. And even growing up, there were some kids who I'm absolutely friends with now, and it wasn't but their parents would pull me aside and say, I don't want you hanging out with my kids.
Why? Because of what your parents did for
My
work.
parents did. Yeah. I was the carny kid.
But did they not know that your dad had this like code of ethics and the call to church and all that, like church call, whatever? That didn't matter.
Idaho at that time when I grew up, it was very religious. It probably still is. I don't know. I'm not in that. I don't run in that crowd. But
not in that world right now.
It was my parents. My father would have to pay extra for me to go to daycare or childcare.
Shut the fuck up.
It was
like that's its own form of discrimination. Though.
100%. If we were in hotels and they found out who we were, they would kick us out in the middle of the night.
That's so fucked. Yeah. And you were a kid?
Yeah.
What would they say? Just like go figure it out?
Yeah. Well, if it was just me and the other girls, we were teenagers and we were like, hey, I want to take a bath and like have a regular TV and watch some local,
nothing.
TGIF, whatever. Yeah. And we're on the road. And my mom's like, okay, I'm going to get you a hotel at the nice hotel in town. Go do your thing. I trust you. They'd find out and I'd have to call my mom. Hey, pick us up. They kicked us out.
That is so fucking bonkers. I don't know what to do with that information.
And that was me. Can you imagine what my parents and my grandparents went through?
No.
I mean, their horror stories are just insane.
Do you know of any?
Yes.
Can you tell a couple?
Probably not.
Okay. It's that bad.
Yeah. We have...
Jesus.
Here's one that I only want to tell stuff that I know for sure.
Yeah, sure.
Because, my parents. But we had a guy named Pops. And he was an old African-American man. Super kind. He was on the carnival. He's probably in his maybe 70s, 60s. Super nice guy. And he'd been with us for years. And we were at the Northern Idaho Fair. And if you don't know about Northern Idaho in the 90s, it was skinheads. Yeah, everybody was a Nazi.
Very white.
He was working the Gravitron, which is the ride where he sits in the middle and you spin around and it's like a spaceship. A bunch of skinheads went in and they stayed in.
Jesus Christ.
The local police department would not assist us.
Fuck off.
Considering that it was private property because we rented the land that we were on. It was up to us to take care of it. And now Pops had been in there for a while and we know it wasn't going well. They wouldn't open the door. And so my father had to go in through the floor with a baseball bat to get Pops out.
Jesus Christ.
Like, that's what we dealt with all the time.
Jesus.
Woo. So discrimination was huge. And to be a black carny, that was just... They just consider that next level. But to be a carny alone, there was multiple times where I'd just be walking on the fairgrounds and get punched in the face, knocked out cold because of who I was. Just because people don't like you.
But they're fucking enjoying what you're offering.
Yeah, their kids are.
I didn't, it's just this whole world I just didn't even
People don't know exists.
Yeah.
How hard it is and how beautiful it is.
Sure.
Right? With the camaraderie and the family of even the people that went up through that floor, not knowing what was in there to save that poor man.
Did he end up being okay?
Oh yeah, he was fine. He was also struck by lightning the following year on top of the super slide.
Fuck off. That man wanted to live.
Yeah. My father paid for his nursing home until he passed away, just because he was such a good guy. But yeah, we were taking down the super slide. It was a storm.
Was it super slide that thing with the potato sacks?
The potato sacks, yeah. And he was on the top, and we'd already undone the bottom half, which comes down and lays down flat. And lightning hit the ride, fried him. And I watched two men, one of whose name was Moose. I couldn't tell you to this day. And Moose, if you're listening, reach out, man. Because I watched him lift up that ride, which was easily 1,000 pounds, and put that thing so they could get him down on one of those potato sacks. And he held it on his back. So
Holy
we
God.
could get pops down the slide to the hospital.
Why was it that why couldn't you guys go up the stairs to go get him off it?
Because the top of the slide, the way it's on the back of the truck, there's a breaking point where they took off the slide. And so the top of the slide was like, it's like a 12-foot drop from the slide where they had unhooked it to the bottom to the ground.
Oh, shit.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then they take that slide part and slide it underneath and then lower the hydraulics.
Oh, this is in order to be able to transport it.
Transport it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they had to climb up to the top, hand and foot over, climbing to get to the top and get him. And Moose held that thing up.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Wow. Saved his life.
Saved his life, yeah.
Wow.
Poor Pops.
His
family is listening. I couldn't even... my father is in the early stages of dementia.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I need to ask him these things. Like, what was Pop's real name? Look through the books, which I have in my garage, and see if I can find his family. Like, you never think of those things until you're like, man.
So you're at
I
our
have
age.
some stories about Pops.
Yeah. That his family would probably love to hear.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not the beat up one, but just how
he was
dedicated.
so resilient. Like, it didn't stop him, know?
Yeah, I would have quit. I would have quit
offered
that
to
day.
have, hey, I'll pay for you. You don't have to come out. You can choose to not come to the Northern Idaho Fair. And he
still
didn't back away.
Good for fucking him. Good.
Yeah.
Because that's such a fuck you to those pieces of shit. Like, good.
Yeah.
Keep going there. Ugh. And did he stay on until he was,
Yeah, until he couldn't. I think after his health started to decline after he was struck by lightning. He wasn't directly struck. It struck the rig.
That's enough, though. Yeah.
I'm not sure how lightning works, but I think that's...
It's weird, though, that at amusement parks, like, there were a few... I remember stories of growing up at the amusement park that was, 45 minutes outside of my town or whatever, that was stationary. There were lightning strikes there several times. It's just, I wonder if it's... I don't know. Maybe
just
because
metal.
Yeah, things are so high in the air. Yeah, that's a common... That's so bonkers.
I saw a guy get run over by a truck. He was so drunk.
You actually saw it?
Yeah. We were setting up. So you lay out the lot, right? And you're pulling in the trucks. And his name was Chuck. Chuck's still alive. Chuck, I know you're out there. Chuck was drunk, passed out, and a truck ran over him the next morning.
Jesus Christ.
Ran him over. Like,
fully ran him over.
On his belly. Chuck was
not small man.
He had a belly.
Yeah.
Chuck, I don't know if you have one now, but man, did you have a belly? And the truck ran him over, and he stood up and was like, "What's up? My mom's like, "We got to take you to the hospital because
something crushed your organs."
Like
a truck,
like a semi, not like a Ford F-150.
Now, when you say you use language where you said lay out the lot, does that mean so you put all the rides sort of where they're about to be? Is that what that means? Okay.
Yeah. So my father would go out and measure. So he would go the week before and he used it's got a wheel on it and you measure it and then he'd spray paint.
Like the electricians and shit use.
Yeah. Put the Rocco plane here, put the zipper here, put this here. They always have a story about my grandpa Ray, my mother's father, and how he loved his beer. Right. So he would sit down in a chair and Reed would be stressed out about I can't figure out how they're going to fit. And he would literally drink a beer, crush the can and throw it and be like, put the zipper there.
Just knew. And every time he was right.
Fit perfectly.
Shut the fuck up. That's so cool.
So yeah, laying out the lot, they have to come up with the design of how people come in, come out, emergency exits, where the games are going to be.
Would you ever feel like, could you ever tell something bad was about to happen? Because I feel like you would have some crazy intuition.
Gangs?
Yeah, that kind of shit.
Yeah. So as we got older, we had towers more so that would be manned by security, local security.
Oh, literally a tower in the sky.
A tower, yeah.
Oh, shit.
But absolutely, you could tell when people were starting to crowd up or things were starting to happen. And it was always something where Chuck, the dude who was run over by a truck, Moose, Reed, always had to be at the forefront of the action. We had another guy, Gary. If these guys started to assemble together where they were like, okay, now we got to do something. To this day, Reed carries a mini bat in his car.
Shit.
Then, they would go in and break it up. It was their responsibility. It was their property. And that's how these individual towns, insurance, I'm sure, something legal, separated themselves from what was going on the carnival. So we would have to pay for security. We would often pay for off-duty cops, security officers to be on site. As time went on or as bigger things were happening, like the Boise River Festival, we would always pay off-duty cops to come and secure the area. But smaller towns would not give you security.
Wait, like, so you'd be willing to pay for it and they just wouldn't offer it? Mm-hmm. Fuck off. Why?
Because they didn't want to get involved.
Oh, God. But you are involved. You've
Yeah.
allowed this
It's
to be
their
in your
town.
town.
Yeah. But they're like, oh, out of sight, out of mind.
That's
Happens
so
there. It's your
gross.
responsibility.
This is the shit that most people who are not from these parts of the country understand exists in such a real way.
Yeah.
Everyone who's like shocked by the insurrection, I'm like, you don't think that this shit's already going down in all these small
All the
towns
time.
all the time?
Yeah.
Like, it makes me fucking crazy. Okay, so anyway, so you could tell when stuff was about to happen. Could you also tell, like, was there ever a moment when you're like, we need to skip whatever town we have this contract with because we're being set up? Did you ever feel that way?
No,
No.
it never went that deep. It was small town gangs.
Okay.
It was never anything like on a larger scale. It was never anything that our guys couldn't take care of.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of big guys on a carnival.
Well, so that was the other thing I was going to ask. So because they didn't have like a financial stake, so they didn't obviously own any of the rides or any of the food stands or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just for love of the game that they would like take up for y'all.
Absolutely. Gary he was one of our, I guess you'd call him engineers. He fixed everything from the generator to the rides. He was just super intelligent. He had been with my father for 40, 50 years.
Oh, so that's loyalty like you can't buy.
Yeah, these guys are brothers. They're not. And you have to remember in the 70s, Montana, Idaho, what kind of jobs were there?
What were your options?
You know?
Yeah.
These guys were talented. Some of them were coming out of war. Some had mental issues that maybe some of them drank too much. And the only person that could control them was
Your
Reed
dad.
or Gary and Chuck band together. Or, these guys formed these families of taking care of each other and overcoming their demons. And then Gary owns apartment complexes all over Montana now. Like the guy's
I was just about to ask
wealthy as
that.
hell.
Is he really?
Yeah, like because he was paid so well to do what he did for my father. And,
Band of Brothers. You can't. Yeah, you
what's
can't
a
buy
good fight
that.
on a Friday night? Like, come on, let's do it.
I mean, let's get into the shit.
Let's have a good tussle.
Yeah, like, let's put hands on someone.
It's a different generation. You have to remember. I say that often, but
It was a different time. It's a different time.
it's not like those going for the insurrection. These guys were like, "Oh, we're gonna fight some, lousy gang members in
Yeah.
Boise, Idaho, at 11 o'clock at night on a Friday. Sure,
Handle it.
Go ahead, let's do this. Let's have a good time.
We'll win. So let's go. Okay. It's just, I could keep talking about this. So I just want to understand. So at let's see, you said,
This is going to be like a 40 episode
no,
podcast.
it for sure is. Like this, I was looking at the time. I was like, well, this
We're gonna
ain't,
have a
this ain't one
follow-up
episode.
at
Yeah,
some
100%. I'm going to get so many fucking emails. Why didn't you ask about this? Blah, blah, blah. Be like, right. I forgot. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us here at Service from Hell with part 1 with Jennifer Reed Williams talking about all the ins and outs of one of the coolest jobs I have ever talked about in my life with someone. I could have talked to her for a lot longer, so we're so grateful she gave us the time that she did, and we will be back next week with more insane stories, so join us then. Thank you folks so much for listening. Good night!